On the morning of June 27, 1977, a private nurse entered her employer's mansion to find two people murdered. This story rivals anything that may have come from the pen of Agatha Christie or Arthur Conan Doyle. Here's the story of the Congdon murders. On the morning of June 27, 1977, Mildred Garvu arrived at work at Glensheen Mansion in Duluth, Minnesota. Mildred was a day nurse for 83-year-old multimillionaire heiress Elizabeth Congdon, who needed round-the-clock nursing care after suffering a stroke. Mildred was surprised to find the door was unlocked. As she entered the house, she was puzzled to see her friend and co-worker, Velma Piatilla, lying on the window seat on the landing of the grand staircase. At age 67, Velma had retired a month earlier and was filling in for a sick nurse. At first, Mildred thought Velma had fallen asleep there, but as she started up the stairs, she noticed blood and realized Velma had been beaten. She had been viciously hit 23 times with a heavy brass candlestick. Mildred took her pulse and realized her friend was dead. Mildred's next thought was to check in on Elizabeth, who was in the second-floor bedroom. There, she found Elizabeth in her bed. A satin pillow that had been used to suffocate her was still covering her face. Although single, Elizabeth Congdon had adopted two daughters in the 1930s. One of them, Marjorie, was rebellious and prone to getting in trouble. In fact, in 1949, she was diagnosed as a sociopath. Investigators soon focused on Marjorie, now named Marjorie Caldwell, and her husband of 1 year, Roger. The couple was living in a motel in Colorado and was desperate for money. Marjorie was in line to inherit $8 million when her mother died. Among the few valuables that were looted from the room was a gold Byzantine coin. 3 days before Elizabeth died, Marjorie had authorized a paper saying Roger was to receive $2.5 million of her share of the inheritance. After Elizabeth's funeral, the couple traveled to the Twin Cities where Roger suffered an unexpected collapse. He was rushed to the hospital, where it was found he had ingested sedatives. 3 years earlier, Elizabeth had fallen ill after eating some homemade marmalade that was fed to her by Marjorie. In that case, doctors also determined sedatives had been taken. While Roger recovered from his illness, a handwritten envelope addressed to Roger Caldwell arrived at their Colorado motel, postmarked Duluth, on the day of the murders. The motel clerk gave it to police. Inside was the 1,700-year-old Byzantine coin taken from Elizabeth Congdon's bedroom. Handwriting experts concluded that Caldwell had addressed the envelope. Based on that and other evidence, including a fingerprint, they were arrested. Roger Caldwell was tried first and was convicted of murder in 1978. Marjorie was then tried. Her behavior in court was unusual. During the trial, she would often knit at the defense table. She brought in a cake for her lawyer's birthday and even solicited donations from the prosecuting attorney for a charity. The jury couldn't see how such a woman could kill her own mother. Marjorie was acquitted in 1979. Based on new evidence presented in Marjorie's trial, the Minnesota Supreme Court overturned Roger Caldwell's conviction in 1983. Rather than risk an acquittal at retrial, the prosecution offered him a plea deal. If he would confess and plead to second-degree murder, he would be released with time served. Roger confessed to both murders on July 5, 1983, and was released. Roger committed suicide on May 18, 1988. In his suicide note, he claimed he was innocent of killing those girls. He never got any of the promised money from Marjorie. While Roger was still in prison, Marjorie remarried Wally Hagen without divorcing Roger. After their wedding, a house they had just sold in the Twin Cities was set on fire the night they moved out. Marjorie still owed money on the mortgage and had an insurance policy on the house. She was charged with arson and was convicted of arson and insurance fraud and spent 20 months in prison. After her release, the couple moved to Ajo, Arizona. They were feuding with a neighbor, and afterwards a kerosene-soaked rag was found on the neighbor's windowsill. He called police, who set a trap, hoping to catch the culprit. Around 1 a.m., they saw a flash and rushed out, chasing a figure down the dark alley. It was Marjorie. Years later, Marjorie was again convicted and was sent to prison in Arizona on July 19, 1993. On the day she was sent to prison for the Arizona arson, Wally Hagen mysteriously died in their home. Marjorie was initially suspected of murder, but the charges were dropped. Marjorie said they planned a double suicide, and she backed out at the last minute. Arizona authorities have never brought charges against her for that crime. Wally Hagen's children also suspected Marjorie was involved in the unexpected death of Wally's first wife. Marjorie was released from Arizona State Prison on January 5, 2004. She was again arrested on March 23, 2007 in Tucson, Arizona. This time, Marjorie pled guilty to fraud after illegally taking funds from the bank account of Roger Samus after his death. Mr. Samus had been under her care, and after he died, she was cashing his checks. Some suspected Marjorie of foul play in Roger's death as well. At last report, Marjorie was in her 80s and still living in Arizona. Do you think she had anything to do with the murder of her millionaire mother? We may never know, but as long as Marjorie is alive, there's a good chance we may still hear more about her. Thanks for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe.